1. Background context from me. I'm a 22-year-old man, 21 at the time when I moved out, and work at my family's furniture company as a salesperson. My roommate is a 39-year-old man who also works at that same company, John. Close to last year, I dropped out of college. It was a super depressing time in my life, and I was itching to move out. My parents were charging me $500 rent, and that was fine. A few months later, John's roommate moved out of their apartment. He came up to me and explained the situation. He needed someone to pay a little bit of the rent so he could stay there, and offered me a discounted $500 rent to stay there. My parents advised I didn't, but I did, and moved into the apartment a few weeks later. And since then, there have been 3 major incidents that make me wish I never moved in. The first was when I first moved in. I got everything settled and then threw a small moving-in party. 2 friends who lived nearby, and 7 of my friends who were still in college were gonna come down as well. Now the plan was to all smoke weed together and just have fun, but I wanted to pre-game. John has these 10 mg THC gummies, and I asked if I could have one. He took one out of the container and gave it to me. I'm a lightweight, enough to where 10 mg is enough to get me there. The 2 friends come, and we're all still waiting on the other 7, but at that point the room started to move. I kind of fell on the floor and couldn't move. I asked what happened, and John said that he didn't give me a 10 mg gummy, he gave me a 150 mg. I started freaking out. I was pissed and humiliated, but I could barely move. And because I had a bit to drink, I ended up making it to the bathroom and greening out on the bathroom floor while throwing up. I don't remember much after that, but when my college friends got there, they said that they saw me crying in the bathroom with vomit on myself. They were gonna call an ambulance, but John assured them I was fine, and they left shortly after. I woke up still a bit high and had several missed calls from my friends. I confronted John about it and told him that he kinda drugged me. All he says was he gave me a herbal remedy and brushed it off. Since moving in, I've found out a lot about him. He's an alcoholic, drinks every night, and is super homophobic. He also likes to show people his guns while he is drunk. I actually once found a loaded pistol next to him when he passed out drunk one time. Another time was when he threw a small game night with some of his friends. I had a few shots and didn't want any more, so when John asked if I wanted another, I said no. He then started forcing me to take them. Eventually, one of my friends got there, Hannah, who was now my fiancée. By the time she got there, I was super drunk and could barely see straight. John would give me a shot and say it's water, and I was drunk enough to where I would just take it. I ended up throwing up several times and also in my bed. Hannah stayed to help me get in the shower and clean my sheets, but John makes her super uncomfortable, and she had to leave when I passed out. I woke up super hungover, but also had a series of texts from John. They were pictures of me drunk and throwing up, and a few pictures of me in my underwear. This happened last summer, 6 months ago, and he still has the pictures. He'll show them to his friends and my coworkers and refuse to delete them, even though I've asked several times. 2. I'll try to be brief, but there are so many little things. I'm a 21-year-old woman, and my second roommate, also 21, female Stacy, just had our third roommate, 20 and non-binary Mia, move out of the dorm. We were close friends until now. Mia barely cleaned, did dishes poorly, never replaced the trash bag, and expected praise. They clogged Stacy's vacuum and broke our toilet paper holder 3 times. Mia is passive-aggressive and constantly baby talks to us. What made it worse is they are obsessed with Asian culture. They are not Asian. They love all things anime, K-drama, yaoi, and kept edging closer to actual yellow fever. They would take pictures in the Asian market and constantly say phrases in Japanese with an anime moan in public. Stacy is half Asian and I'm a quarter. Whenever we are all together, 60% of Mia's conversation is yaoi. When Stacy's parents visited, Mia called Stacy's Asian dad hot while he was in the other room. This made us notice 75% of their exes are Asian. We never knew how to bring it up. Mia lives close to campus, so they often went home by train. Recently, they left every weekend, going early Friday morning, saying they'd be home midday Saturday. and then arriving Sunday night, early Monday morning, waking us up in the process. Once home, they'd lock themselves in our double dorm and be on the phone for hours. Even if I had a headache or my boyfriend was in the room, which was rare, they'd sit in there with me. Stacy and I always hang out at home and go out once if we can on weekends. I told Mia a month in advance that I would be throwing a small party, which they said they would be back for. Despite not making it, they went on to complain that Stacy and I left them out. A week went by and they texted us that they were leaving and they needed a single room for their mental health. I was in class when they texted, but Stacy was in her room. As someone helped Mia move out, they began ranting, unaware that Stacy could hear them, and how we always left them out and it serves us right to take the items they brought. They claimed to have lied about the mental health quip due to hating our guts, and that we acted like middle schoolers. They left our room floor dirty, and they were glad to do so. After leaving momentarily, Stacy came out to eat. Mia came back, quieter and only doing small talk. They left behind a bath mat and a broom. After cleaning, we left them neatly outside our door so they could pick it up, tucked away from the people and outside elements. Living in the same hall, we'd assumed they'd see it. We didn't want to throw the stuff away, but none of us wanted to reach out after what they said. Mia had checked the whole dorm, so we assumed they were aware of it. After sitting out for a few days, they sent us a picture of the items saying, "Thank you so much for letting me know, really appreciate it." None of us responded. Everyone in our circle thinks they are too dramatic to defend, so we need an impartial view. 3. Rant. I, late 20s, let a mutual friend, mid to late 30s, move in with their dog, 2 years and a bit ago. Before they moved in, I did the asking of how they are to live with and the vetting of the dog. They said they were pretty conscious and turned lights off as they go. They absolutely do not. My bill went from $100 to $275. They were clean and quiet? Sure, tidy. Quiet? No. They will come home at 11 p.m. and baby talk loudly to the dog for like 45 minutes saying, "Sorry, I didn't think you were home." They said the dog is housebroken. He is not. Before they moved in, they pitched the idea by letting me know that they are aware they are moving into my home. I am the leaseholder, and they will treat it as such. They also let me know they are not sure of their future and could be potentially moving to a different place. They don't know. It put it in my mind that they were more so looking for something softly temporarily. They seem to be the type of person that likes to jump around, with jobs included. When they first moved in, it was really awesome. Me and my partner would walk their dog and be really kind, because the roommate honestly seems to be a little too busy to have a dog. We'd cook the roommate breakfasts and dinners sometimes and take the dog out with us when we went outside or for drives. My partner doesn't live there, but was in my life before the roommate moved in, so we hang out often. Slowly I noticed it seemed like I was lied to, and the dog in fact wasn't house-trained. Soon the dog began peeing on the floor and running through the house peeing, chewing my belongings, as the house is mostly furnished with my belongings. Like chewing up my new coffee table, after chewing the corners of the old one, chewing pillows, my shoes, towels, all my cat's toys, carpets. There have been many times he's chewed up all their toilet paper and it littered the hallway. There was once when it happened he started to pee because he knew he messed up. They hit him. We never talked about it after, but it made me so uncomfortable. You could tell they were sorry, but still. I was pretty understanding at first, but after the hand spank they gave him, things changed for me a bit. After all the dog's destructive behavior, I set a very firm boundary that I won't be comfortable with anything past this point. I got a big sorry. I got guilted by saying, "My family says you're going to kick me out, so they gave me money to train my dog." Honestly, I was pretty stoked about that. Given or not, train the damn dog properly, not strike him. So, it was said starting next month the dog would go to training. When that month arrived, it became the next month. Then actually the one after that, and so on. The solution to the dog peeing and biting all my things was mediated by putting a big playpen in the living room whenever the roommate isn't home, no pee pads. even though he still pees in the pen. I was told not to clean it as the roommate will take care of it after work. I have to clean it, or it will damage the floors. The dog has started pushing the pen around and escapes by jumping on the couch. I told my roommate I don't feel comfortable with the dog being allowed to access the common areas when the roommate is at work. The solution: the pen. I tried to suggest putting the dog in their room as he's anxious. They refused by saying, "I don't want him running my things. He's going to whine wherever he is in the house. I can't lay pee pads because he will chew them up. There's nothing I can do." I thought we reached a breakthrough in January when they texted saying they're going to keep the dog in their room. I agreed it was a very good idea. That never happened. Why say you're going to help the issue and never follow through? Because so far this behavior has just been ruining my comfort level in the home. And I'm also concerned about the dog being kept separate from his safe zone, their room. The only apologies I've received are, "Sorry you need to put your shoes away, but leave my slippers out so he has something to chew," further reinforcing he should be chewing on shoes. I feel as though I am the one being trained and not the dog. "He needs to be taken out when someone gets home so he doesn't pee." "Hey, if you're home, can you walk my dog? I pay rent here. My dog is allowed in the common areas." "I don't have the money for daycare. I don't have the time for training. You need to respect this is a shared space. Can I give my dog a bath in your room?" In the beginning, I also let them use my bedroom bathroom as it has a tub to wash the dog. It now has become an expectation that the roommate is allowed to use my bathroom to wash the dog instead of their bathroom and their shower. Usually this wouldn't have been a problem, but yesterday, they sent a text after I asked if they could please keep the dog in their room while at work. The text was basically saying they don't feel comfortable keeping the dog in their room, and I'm starting to make them feel uncomfortable because it seems like I have a problem with the dog. "Looks like we're just going to have to share. I pay rent here, so you need to respect my dog will be in the common area." After reading that message, I felt completely different about them. I have lived on my own since I was young. The message felt condescending. I understand the concept of sharing. I understand they pay rent to live in the home. That was never the issue. The issue is their lack of action and compassion for not only me as a roommate, but their anxious rescue dog. Last night I stopped at home before going to my partner's, and the dog had fully escaped the pen while they were at work, and had dragged carpets and towels around the house. I was exhausted and defeated of asking to be seen, so I took a video and left. Today I wake up to a message from them asking to use my private bathroom to wash the dog again. Would it be rude to tell them I no longer feel comfortable sharing my bathroom with them? I don't want to be petty and say because I pay for my personal space, but I feel as though it's becoming my only option. That message rubbed me the wrong way because I've been very welcoming and shared my things this entire time. I've altered my cat's lifestyle by purchasing a covered litter so the dog stops eating my cat's droppings, without having to be asked. I've moved the electric cat feeder. I've changed his feeding schedule, so he doesn't meow in the morning and wake them up. He's eaten at the same time for an entire year, but I happily accommodated their request. When it comes to me reminding them it's a shared space, I have gotten a ton of pushback. It's often met with excuses, and they go down a spiral of how sad they are and how much they're stressed about this and life and work. Sorry, I just need to get it off my chest because it's eating me alive. Hellfreezer's note. Yeah, they have to go. Firstly, their bathroom is not a shared space, so they can't claim that. They have no right to ask that. And secondly, they're not on the lease, as far as I understand, so yeah, kick them out. They're obviously not treating the shared space with the same respect they expect to be shown themselves. And once they are gone, I'm sure it will be difficult to get them out, but make sure your partner's there and any other friends you can on the day you make them leave, and do make them leave that day. It would be nice to give them warning, but quite frankly, if you give them warning, you're just giving them time to do something nasty. I would also contact whatever local organization deals with pets, see if you can get them into a no-kill shelter. 4. I have had a bad experience with my roommate, and I wonder whether my thinking surrounding the situation is justified. Some context. Last September, due to a lot of luck and knowing the right people, I, a 25-year-old man, got a very cheap rental contract for my apartment. There's a housing crisis in my city right now, and my 3-bedroom apartment, under normal circumstances, should go for at least 1,200 euros. I am paying 460 euros per month, including utilities. I can easily afford to pay this place on my own, but I have never lived by myself, and I figured it would be kind of lonely and boring. None of my friends were looking for a new place, so I decided to find a roommate, be friends with them, and split the rent 50-50. I then meet Peaches, a 29-year-old woman, at a bar. She is pretty, and kind of an alternative-looking girl. She is full of piercings, has many tattoos. She seems nice. I mentioned that I was looking for a roommate. She later DM'd me that she's interested. Apparently she was making a lot of money for her room, and had a falling out with her 4 other roommates. They were all assholes and insane, apparently. I think whatever and let her move in. She seems like a nice girl. Not 2 days after she arrived, the drama started. Drama! I have never experienced anything like this. In a span of 5 years and having had 12 roommates, all the problems and frictions put together did not come close to living with this woman for 1.5 months. Half of the time things would be fine, and the other half of the time she would be angry at me, sulking, ignoring me, creating a shit atmosphere in the house whilst refusing to talk. I had no idea what would be waiting for me in the morning. Here are some examples. We were talking to this guy at a hardware store. She asked if we could speak in English so she could understand. The guy tried at first but was struggling. He knew I spoke Dutch, so he gave up and just talked to me. I responded in Dutch to accommodate him. Peaches flies off the handle, walks out the store. I follow her and she's swinging her arms around saying, "Fuck you!" this and that. Mind you, this is on day 2, like the 4th time I've ever even seen this woman. Her rage subsided after 24 hours. 2 weeks after she moved in, we were having drinks in town with some random people. She goes home to sleep with one of the dudes. I'm left with the rest, and around 3:30 a.m. I invite them to our place for a small after. 4 people total. We're playing darts in the living room adjacent to our bedrooms, and without warning, Peaches comes out butt naked, screaming at the top of her lungs that this was unacceptable and she was trying to sleep. Next day I couldn't apologize, but she refused to talk to me. A 5-day sulking session ensued. Later, we agreed to hang out in the other room and keep it down when the other is sleeping. I was drawing some doodles on my whiteboard, and I grabbed a bottle cap from her bottle which was in proximity, which I later found out to be a tattoo paste or something. I had forgotten to put the bottle cap back on, she found it, and another multi-day sulking session ensued. Of course I apologized, because I clearly mishandled her personal property without permission. But she didn't want to hear it. After a couple of days of crap atmosphere, I texted her, "I'm sorry, it was dumb, how can I make it right, etc." Still nothing. And a week later, she's still slamming doors, making snide, passive-aggressive remarks, you get the picture. Later I found out that she was primarily mad about the medium of communication of my apology. Kind of off topic, because this wasn't something towards me, but she randomly stole some guy's skateboard from underneath a table next to us at a bar. This woman is 29 years old. I honestly think she is mentally unwell. Take into account that these are just 3 examples of many during the first 1.5 months. What I must also remark is that her meltdowns mostly came after isolated incidents like the ones above. The only pattern she ever complained about was me forgetting to turn off the lights. Stuff like doing the dishes and leaving a mess in the living room was never a problem. She did mention that she mopped and vacuumed the floor more often than me. In any case, like I said earlier, the whole reason I chose to have a roommate was to live with a friend. The drama was too much for me and I decided she had to go. When I broke the news to her, saying that we are clearly not a good match as roommates, her tone immediately switched. She suddenly became super nice and relaxed, and within the time she was supposed to find a new place, the atmosphere in the house was normalized. At the end, I ended up letting her stay. To be honest, I felt sorry for her for reasons I won't get into. Things went fine from this point forward. There was peace in the house. After a while, I internally started to resent her a little bit. Because during the first month and a half, when I was doing my absolute best to keep her happy and accommodate her, giving her space during her tantrums and everything, it was complete chaos. Then, when her finances are threatened, she would pay roughly double or triple the rent anywhere else. She has the capability to remain calm and communicate like an adult. I didn't act out or anything, but I didn't perceive her as a friend, which was the whole point. She then did a couple of things that annoyed me. For example, she wrote me a full paragraph with a voice note after I left dishes in the sink until the next day one time when I had an exam. Even though I did her dishes multiple times the entirety of the time she stayed at my place. One time she left it like a tornado had hit the kitchen for 3 days and I didn't complain. She also started to pay rent in cash. Even though I asked her twice not to do it, she said, "No, sorry," and continued to do so. I ultimately lost patience with her when she brought people home at 6 a.m. and woke me up when I had to get up at 9 to go to uni. The next day she acted as if nothing happened. So, waking her up in the middle of the night and using an incorrect medium for an apology was reason for her to act like a bitch for almost 2 weeks. And then she does the same thing with no apology whatsoever without an ounce of shame. At this point I've had enough and asked her to move out again. She will be gone by the end of the month. And I've barely been at home as I can't handle the crap atmosphere. Maybe my interpretation of events is biased, of course, but in any case, feel guilty for resenting her, even though she massively improved her behavior overnight. Am I the asshole? Hellfreezer's note, no, I really don't think they are the asshole in this occasion. If she was capable of changing her behavior and keeping it relatively consistent after that, it means her behavior was a choice before. I don't even think you can excuse it as mental illness. I think she's just kind of a bitch. 5. Last summer, my wife and I had a friend move in with us. Both since we wanted to move to a different state, and this economy, and because she needed a new place to live after hearing how terrible her roommates treated her after they broke up with her, including essentially stopping buying food for the household. So we let her move in, and we thought it would be a win-win, since in lieu of an actual rent payment, she would be taking over one of the smaller bills like internet. None of this was ever really in writing, though my wife did have some messages mentioning roommate, taking over a bill, and helping with food. The former has not happened, and there have been issues with the latter. She moved in and our food costs legitimately tripled. She would eat things that weren't communal without asking, and these things were obviously not something to share. Wife had some special candy she can't get here, and was a gift from her girlfriend. And I had an expensive chocolate bar I had bought myself as a treat to save for a rough day, which was put in the freezer and then exposed to the air when roommate got into it and ate like a quarter and didn't rewrap it. When my wife confronted her about the candy, roommate lied and said she hadn't eaten it, later admitted she did, and then didn't apologize. A family pack of food is a single meal for roomie, and she was consistently getting into the pantry after repeatedly being asked to stay out of it because we were trying to build it as an emergency food source, since we live in an area with shit-ass weather and shit happens. I started hiding my food because she would get into it before I did, and it was triggering my old eating disorder I've worked very hard to get rid of. She is still getting into the pantry, and at this point, despite as of last month having separate food purchases after getting her EBT. If the food was the only problem we had, I'd be less frustrated, but she also doesn't clean. Literally at all, unless we hound her like we're her parents. I'm not a parent, and she's not my fucking kid, she's an adult and needs to act like one. She constantly dirties all the dishes, especially the cookware, and just leaves it to sit in filth after cooking because she has absolutely no follow-through on anything. She opens food and then leaves the garbage on the counter because as soon as she has what she needs from something, it's like she goes blind. She leaves food on the floor and orders wings a lot, and we have a small dog who, despite having no teeth, will still steal and chew on bones, and I have talked with our roommate several times about being careful with wings, because if my dog dies because she choked on a chicken bone, I think I would actually beat roommate's ass. It doesn't do anything because she is constantly leaving her food on the floor of her room where my dog can get it because she leaves her door open. Which, by the way, looks like a dumpster half the time, since she doesn't throw away any trash, unless my wife or I tell her several times to throw it out and stop hoarding the dishes in her room. At this point again, all of the dishes in the house are dirty, save for the 2 utensils and bowl each for my wife and I, since we're actively washing those after we use them. I have said something repeatedly, asking roommate to please do the dishes after she finishes her food, not even right away, which she said she would and then didn't. I have now twice had to hand wash the entire kitchen of dishes, and at this point I'm not doing it a 3rd time. So, at this point, shit is done as it's needed. We had brought this up in December, which was already a chaotic month because she literally quit her job and then didn't tell us until I was like, hey, what's your schedule looking like? And she was like, oh, I quit, without having another job lined up. But it was brought up, and then she complained to wife's girlfriend, a mutual friend, that she was the chore person, when all we're doing was literally asking her not to turn our house into a landfill. She literally does absolutely no chores unless, again, we basically hound her for multiple days in a row. I don't have a concise ending for this because I'm so frustrated, it's like nothing we say sticks. Wife and I have been talking about essentially evicting her, but we're going to give her a chance to get her shit together. Forgot to add that in addition to all of this, she's so loud. She's so loud at all times and is constantly playing party games with her friends, and she screams. I will hear her to floor down and she wakes up like this. Our bedrooms are right next to each other, and I don't think it's unreasonable to ask her not to play games with people while we're sleeping if she can't control her volume. We do sleep during the day most of the time, but her schedule is a bit more half and half on, if she's awake during the day or not. But regardless, she's still gonna scream and howl into her mic. We ask her to keep it down when we're sleeping, and she'll be like, sorry, in the group chat. If it's loud enough, she feels bad about it after. Rare. But I'm not looking at my phone. If you wake me up, bitch, I'm knocking on your door. My wife owns the house. We don't pay rent. This is the main reason we didn't ask roommate for any actual rent payment, but instead to just take over the bills. Also, if it's relevant to anyone, my wife and I are early 30s and roommate is early 20s. I don't think she's doing all this out of malice. I genuinely think it just doesn't occur to her because she's selfish and immature, and does everything super half-assed. I think a little bit of it is weaponized incompetence, but not consciously, since we often have to redo a few dishes when she does do them, and grunts and groans like an old person every time when I am the one with the chronic pain. She left a bag of trash untied on the door last night, and my wife DM'd her like, the fuck is this? Take it out. And she had been like, I didn't have shoes downstairs. It's not cold outside and the bin is 3 feet from the stairs. After I posted this, my wife and I talked some more and will be writing a letter of grievances and giving it to her, and have pretty much settled on an ultimatum or eviction, since we don't want to continue living like this. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates, Episode 6. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, do hit the like button, if you want to. Don't feel pressured or anything. And if you'd like early access to these videos, not a problem. Just click on the link to my Patreon in the description, and you can support me there for as little as $1 or more a month. You'll also find a link to the Hellfreezer Teespring store, where you can get your Hellfreezer merchandise. If you really liked today's video, why not leave a tip? Do that by clicking on the heart with a $sign in the middle under the video. And you're never required to do that, but thank you if you choose to. Alright, no other business I believe today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, and this one comes from Newcomb on the Discord, what's your favorite type of jewelry? Rings, bracelets, tiara? Well, that's pretty simple for me. I don't really wear jewelry much. I used to have a ring I got a while back. It was kind of like angelic symbols made of pewter. I just thought it looked cool. Wasn't terribly valuable. I might have it somewhere. I'm really not sure. And for a while I had an ankh I used to wear around my neck. But that's about it. Not really much of a jewelry person, but I look forward to seeing what your answers are in a comment below. And before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from PleaseHole29. And I believe this was in relation to do you recycle? And today's answer comes from Susan Buckler Vardakis. I save my grocery bags and crochet them into rugs. Here there's a 10-cent deposit on bottles, so they're returned to get the money back. Also, the soda cans have the same deposit. That's pretty cool. Good way to encourage people. They used to do that, Bars, the company that makes Iron Brew, they used to do that on their soda bottles for a while. I remember when I was younger, it was like 10 pence, and it was 20. I think it was 30 by the time they stopped doing it, but they don't do it anymore. I guess they assume people will just recycle the glass bottles in their home recycling bins, which I hope is the case. Thank you very much for your answer, Susan. Okay. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.